It attracts the most people, takes up the most square footage. If you've never been, would recommend it. Just understand that it's one of the most crowded environments a human being can be in.
Hafthor's got his work cut out for him, but big training lifts.
Yeah, last we saw him, his last training update, he was doing 400 kilos in the elephant bar deadlift for triples.
His classic quad stomp on top of the stage, like bam, striations. That image lives rent-free in my head.
Welcome to Strength Weekly, the show that brings you everything you need to know from around the barbell game and more. I'm one of your intrepid co-hosts, David Thomas Town. I'm joined by the equally intrepid, very smart, and, can I say, dashingly handsome Phil Bleckman, and we have 4 hot stories today. This is also the Strength Weekly dropping right during the Arnold Classic, one of the biggest events in the calendar year. So we're going to get right to it. Our first story today is going to be how to watch all the action from the Arnold Classic in Columbus. Then we have a little preview of someone returning to competition at the Arnold Classic for the first time in several years. Hafthor Bjornsson, we give an update on his training and how he's looking going into his return. Jay Cutler, legendary bodybuilder and multi-time Mr. Olympia winner, will be receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at this year's Arnold. And then finally, this one is last week's news, but we want to bring it to you. Lasha Talakhadze, the super heavyweight champion, one of the greatest weightlifters of all time, arguably the greatest super heavyweight, withdrew a rare withdrawal for Lasha from the European Weightlifting Championships. Phil, of these stories, which are you most excited about?
Everything Arnold Classic. If you're not hyped for this show, what are you even doing in the strength space? This is where the heaviest lifts are going to happen. It's a very heavy contest for the strongmen. And of course, we're going to see if Samson Dauda can defend his title against Hadi Choopan.
Yeah, the Arnold Classic, it has a lot of different competitions. There's the Arnold Strongman Classic, there's the bodybuilding show, there are functional fitness competitions, powerlifting competitions. Then there's the Expo, which is the largest, by the way, it's the largest event in fitness in the world. It attracts the most people, takes up the most square footage. If you've never been, would recommend it. Just understand that it's one of the most crowded environments a human being can be in. So get ready. It is an experience. Let me tell you that. Phil, we're going to talk a little bit about the actual competitions today, as well as some of the expos. What is the overarching 1 or 2 sentence thing people need to know if they want to tune into the competitive action at this year's Arnold in Columbus, Ohio?
Uniquely, this year is a free way to watch the Arnold, all of the Arnold action. Just go over to the Arnold Sports website and you can just register and you'll have a free live stream of all of the action, which is different from past years where you had to pay to see the action live. Now, free for whoever wants to tune in.
This is running from February 29th to March 3rd. It's not like every single lift is going to be streamed. There's a lot happening and a lot of things will be happening simultaneously. This year's streaming options, free streaming, seem like they're pretty darn good, especially given the price tag of, free $99. It's presented by the company Bucked Up, which will be actually, from what we know, taking care of and managing the streaming. I feel this is really interesting. It's an interesting paradigm for the Arnold to move toward. The fact that it isn't pay-per-view is a little surprising to me, but I got to be honest, pretty welcome.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. And it's also going to get more eyeballs. And I think more attention will calibrate to more value in the long term than what the pay-per-view would in the short term. So I think it's a great move.
Yeah. So if you want to watch the Arnold, if you want to watch the competitions at the Arnold, again, the competitive portion, it's not like they're necessarily going to be live streaming everything from the Expo. Just go to the Arnold Classics website and you can register. You have to register, but after you do, you can watch for free, courtesy of Bucked Up. Now, this is a new focus for the Arnold. This is a new way to watch the Arnold remotely. We cannot personally attest to the quality of these broadcasts of the streaming. Every year we tell people how to watch something, even if we're not involved with it directly, and we are not involved with the streaming directly. We get angry emails and comments from people who believe that we are the ones streaming the competition. Now, we have done that in the past, but we have not done that for the Arnold, and we are not doing it for this year's Arnold. So we are excited that it is free and accessible. All you have to do is register to watch the action live, but we can't attest to the quality of the streams. I hope they're great. I really do. But I'm with you folks. So just don't get mad if, something cuts out, glitches out, anything like that. It's not Barbin's fault. I just need to get that out of the way. Oh, I feel like I have a big weight off my chest. Oh, it feels so good. Phil, what are some of the events you are most excited to see live streamed? And on which days will they be live streamed? Oh, and by the way, if you click on the link in the description below, we have a more complete schedule of what is supposedly being live streamed at the Arnold. So click on that link in the description below, and you can sync that up with your calendar.
Yeah, so the actual expo lasts from the 29th to the 3rd, as you mentioned, but the actual competitions that are likely to be live streamed, here's a breakdown of some highlights that you can look forward to. On March 1st, we're going to have the start of the Strongman and Strongwoman Classic. That's day one of the competition for 2 days worth of competition for the Strongman and Strongwomen athletes. On that same day, there's going to be prejudging for the fitness, the classic physique, and the wellness divisions. And then on Saturday, March 2nd, that's when we get to see the bikini, the men's physique, and the men's open finals. So look out for that. Additionally, on the second, we'll also see prejudging and finals for the Wheelchair Arnold Classic. That's always an exciting one as well. And then that is also day two, or the finals, for the strong men and the strong women. And then on March 3rd, even though those competitions for bodybuilding and strongmen will be concluded, on March 3rd, we will get to see the Rogue Record Breakers events, which are always exciting because we always see some of the biggest lifts of the year that take place as athletes go for world records on the big stage.
Yeah, and I also want to point out something that will be live streamed via limited action is the Animal Cage. The return of the Animal Cage Animal Supplements sponsors a cage. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's a big cage where people are lifting crazy things, not so much a competition, but really elite athletes are invited to come, attempt PRs, attempt heavy doubles, triples, all sorts of crazy feats with barbells in their hands and on their backs. So people get pumped up in that environment. They really, really do. So no world records are set in the animal cage, but some unofficial world records certainly have been. So get excited there. Well, Phil, one person that we're going to be seeing on the live stream from the Arnold Strongman Classic, Hafthor Bjornsson, the Icelandic strongman, who, by the way, won the Arnold Strongman Classic 3 years in a row, 2018, 2019, 2020. He is a former world's strongest man. He took time off to enter the boxing game, became a professional boxer, had a few matches, beat Eddie Hall pretty handily, then went back into the powerlifting game, which he hadn't touched in a while, trained for powerlifting, trained to set some world records, got injured at a powerlifting event at his own gym in Iceland, recovered, and is now back to professional strongman. Phil, why is Hafthor returning for the Arnold Strongman Classic and not the world's strongest man this year?
Yeah, so there has been a falling out in the history between Hafthor and Giants Live due to some discrepancy of a missed rep, or should have been a counted rep, back when he lost the 2017 World's Strongest Man to Eddie Hall. It was literally a one rep difference that made those positions on the podium. There's lots of documentation of what went down, and if you want to check that out, you can. It would be a whole separate episode to get into here, but as a result of that falling out, Hafthor has said previously that he will not compete in a Giants Live event going forward. Now, of course, everything can change in the future. Who knows what that holds? So if they somehow reconcile that, he does have a lifetime invite. He wouldn't need to compete elsewhere in order to qualify. But it seems like, judging from his training list for the Arnold Strongman Classic, his training is actually back up to par with some of the top athletes. Now, we talked previously on Strength Weekly when he initially claimed that he was going to return. We were like, it's going to be tough for him to compete with the top guys. I mean, the caliber of athlete from when he retired has very much increased, and he's competing with some of the top guys in the world in Columbus. We're talking Mitchell Hooper, who's the reigning defending Arnold Classic champion, as well as the reigning World's Strongest Man champion. We're going to see the return of Martins Licis, who's been very good in heavy events after a long hiatus away, recovering. And he's also been displaying his training on his YouTube channel, showing how he's been adapting how he lifts weights as he's gotten stem cell treatment and, recovered from previous injuries. So we expect big things from Martins. So Hafthor has got his work cut out for him, but big training lifts.
Yeah, last we saw him, his last training update, he was doing 400 kilos in the elephant bar deadlift for triples. The elephant bar deadlift, by the way, different kind of lift. It's a longer bar. It's a whippier bar. The weight distribution is different than your standard deadlift bar. So it is an event specific to strongman. It is difficult to compare this to a traditional deadlift like you might see in powerlifting. It's sort of a strongman specific event. And it's become something we see often associated with the Arnold Strongman Classic. Rogue Fitness makes these elephant bars for that competition. Rogue Fitness, also located in Columbus, Ohio. Their equipment kind of has really come to define a lot of the events at the Arnold Strongman Classic. So our prediction is that overall, the competition overall for the Pro Strongman, Hafthor finishes probably just off the podium, We could be wrong. We thought he lost a lot of strength. He clearly lost a lot of weight. He talked about this when he moved into boxing and become lighter, more agile, and more athletic in that sport. But hey, we could eat our words. We could see a faster, leaner Hafthor back on the platform doing amazing things. It is worth noting that the Arnold Strongman Classic is generally considered the heaviest event in strongman. World's Strongest Man, you're going to have to move a little bit. It's thought that athleticism is rewarded a little more there. The Arnold has traditionally been all about who's the static monster. There's always some exceptions, and I'm not saying all the events are purely static strength. There is some moving involved, but again, I'm still predicting he finishes off the podium, but you know what? I'd be kind of silly to completely count Hafthor out, and we'll be bringing you the recap of that on next week's Strength Weekly. Let's move over to the sport of bodybuilding. Phil, when you think Jay Cutler, when you hear the term Jay Cutler and you think of bodybuilding, not the former Bears quarterback, by the way, the bodybuilder, not the quarterback, what comes to mind?
I mean, it's obviously for me the quad stomp. I mean, his classic quad stomp on top of the stage, like bam, striations. Like, I mean, that image lives rent free in my head as a fan of bodybuilding and Jay Cutler. So that's what comes to mind for me. What comes to mind for you?
Honestly, the rivalry, the Cutler Coleman rivalry. Yeah, there was that time where for years, Ronnie Coleman seemed unbeatable. Jay Cutler kept finishing in second. They had some epic battles, some epic pose downs, and now they're great friends. And honestly, kind of a storybook ending because Cutler was able to finish his career with four Mr. Olympia titles and is right up there with the greats, including his longtime competitor, Ronnie Coleman. Jay Cutler, I just got to be honest, I've been following him for a long time on social media. Dude is hilarious. I can't wait to hear, if he's given time for an acceptance speech, I can't wait to hear what he goes into. He is a fantastic storyteller. Phil, what do you think of this Lifetime Achievement Award, and is Cutler deserving?
Oh, he's more than deserving for sure. Not only is like he a four-time champion, like you explained, but also even in retirement from the competitive scene, he has still been part of the bodybuilding space as somebody who has his own supplement line. He has a very active YouTube channel where he shares a bunch of training content that helps younger athletes and elite athletes learn proper training techniques and like the way that he did things when he was at the top of his game. And he's going to join the likes of previous recipients like Ronnie Coleman and Ken Flex Wheeler. I mean, he is among the elites, and he's very deserving of this award. So it's a great call to put him up there, and we're excited to see him on that stage.
And I do want to read the ethos behind the Arnold Lifetime Achievement Award, the Arnold Classic Lifetime Achievement Award. It's presented to individuals who have made notable contributions to the fitness industry and offered a lifetime of service to the enhancement of sports performance and promotion. And Arnold Schwarzenegger himself presents the award every year. And look, Cutler, he's someone who had a real narrative to his career. And in my opinion, his rivalry with Coleman was a bit of a miniature golden age in bodybuilding. It was the early YouTube days. Social media hadn't really come to fruition just yet as we know it today, but was just starting to kind of drip out on various platforms. And people were hungry for content, and a lot of what was driving that content was the Cutler-Coleman rivalry. And so for me, Jay Cutler has a special place in my heart because he's someone I was really following closely when I was just getting interested in the barbell game. So kudos to Jay Cutler. Congratulations. Really excited to see that awards ceremony and to maybe even recap it next week. All right, Phil, we're going to talk about someone who will not be at the Arnold. That's Georgia's Lasha Talakhadze, the super heavyweight weightlifter, two-time Olympic champion, multi-time world champion, multi-time European champion. I mean, this guy has not lost a competition since 2015. Lasha Talakhadze had a rare withdrawal from the European weightlifting championships. Phil, can you give us the cliff notes on what happened there?
Yeah, so as far as we know, it was a minor knee injury that he was nursing that they didn't want to aggravate, so he withdrew from the competition. Now, that is notable because it is unlike Lasha to withdraw from a competition, but they decided to play it safe. It is not going to worry his qualification for the Paris Olympic Games. That is not in question. He is still expected to appear there. His coach, a pretty funny guy, quoted saying that effectively he doesn't want Lasha to forget what it's like to win, which is hysterical given Lasha's track record and resume. We can still expect to see him in Paris and in my view, I'm sure in your view, in most people's view, he's still going to be the front runner for the gold.
Yeah, and his coach, Coach Asanidze, is someone who knows a thing or two about winning. Himself an Olympic champion from back in the day. The Georgian weightlifting team has a long history from the days of Kaki Kakishvili through Asanadze and now Talakhadze, some of these top performing men on the international stages. But Lasha Talakhadze is basically in a class of his own. He was a promising junior, actually served a doping suspension. A lot of people do forget about that, and took a couple years away from the international level. When he was a very young athlete, once that doping suspension was over, he came back and really burst back onto the scene around the 2015 World Weightlifting Championships, which were in Houston. Now, he originally finished second in that competition, but upon doping test was actually elevated to first and has not lost since then. And he set some all-time world records along the way in the snatch, the clean and jerk, and the total. He is far and away, especially when it comes to the snatch, the greatest super heavyweight lifter of all time. He's kind of in a class of his own, and there's so many other great super heavies right now that if Talakhadze weren't competing, may themselves be ranked among the all-time greats, but they're always competing for second, or at least it seems like they're always competing for second, because Talakhadze takes such a massive lead coming out of the snatch that the clean and jerks, I don't want to say they're easy after that. I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion because you have to make your lifts, but everyone's playing catch up and he puts himself out so far ahead. I mean, I remember even just 10 years ago, a 210 kilo snatch was going to win you most world championships in weightlifting if you were super heavy, and most Olympic games, or at least get you on the way to winning most Olympic games. And this guy's doing 210 for a double in the training hall just a few days before competition. So it's a different ballgame with Talakhadze on the platform. Now, we have seen him slow his roll just a little bit. And we've seen him say, at one point, the 500 kilo total was within sight. Now he's saying that's probably not going to happen in his career. He's 30 years old. He's going for his third Olympic gold medal in Paris. He's not making the progress he once was when he was in his mid-20s. It seemed like every time he took the stage, we'd have a new world record. But Phil, I mean, is it still safe to say that he is the odds-on favorite in Paris?
I think if anybody is able to upend him for the gold medal, that would be the biggest story coming out of the games. I still think he's the front runner. I mean, the way that we have covered him in the past to try and convey the kind of snatches that you're talking about are like, okay, he just threw a grand piano over his head, just to give context to how heavy the weights that he loads actually are. So I would be shocked if he doesn't still claim the gold, even if he doesn't get the 500 kilogram total that, he's been eyeing for a long time. He will be my pack one, pick one draft, like gold medalist out of the games. And if he doesn't somehow do it, we're doing an emergency episode of Strength Weekly to talk about what happened and who somehow beat him, because that'll be the story of the year.
I mean, there are a lot of other great lifters. There are a number of lifters who will be in Paris who are capable of, snatching 210, clean and jerking 250 or above. My prediction right now is that we're going to see Lasha snatch 220 in Paris, and we're going to see him clean and jerk 252 kilograms to finish with a 472 kilogram total for the gold medal in Paris. That is my current prediction. I am happy to be proven wrong. I do want to read one quote from Coach Asanadze. Lasha has a minor trauma in one of his knees, and we made this decision to mitigate the risk as much as possible. Our objective is Paris. He should retain the feeling of the podium. We're looking to compete in Thailand to retain that feeling. And of course, that's referencing the IWF World Cup, which will occur between now and the Paris Olympics. So we may see Lasha take the stage once more before the Paris Olympics later this year. So a couple more chances to see the big guy on the platform doing crazy things with some heavy weights. Well, there you have it, folks. An exciting week, and the last time you're going to see us before the Arnold Classic, because we'll have a lot more to recap from that next week here on Strength Weekly. Until then, I'm David Thomas Tao, joined by
Phil Bleckman. Thank you as always. Get ready for Arnold Classic and the Arnold Strongman and Strongwomen Classic coverage is coming your way on barbell.com. You won't want to miss out.